These refugees are the leading edge of a much bigger global crisis.
Every day, 42,500 women, girls, boys and men are forced to flee their homes looking for safety.
And it's about far more than the civil war in Syria. In fact, 4 out of 5 of the world's displaced people aren't Syrians. Most of those forced to flee don't even make it across a border. They're stuck in their own country, but unable to go home. This is where the world's displaced people are from. America's 2003 invasion of Iraq and subsequent surge displaced a huge number of people from their homes. Sectarian conflict and a power vacuum fueled the growth of the Islamic State, leading to the latest spike. After a 10-year occupation, the Soviet Union pulled out of Afghanistan in 1989. So did America, which had been arming warlords in a proxy war with Russia. Those warlords then battled it out in a civil war, and you can see how more than 6 million people were forced from their homes. The Taliban gained power and then lost it after America's post-9/11 invasion, which displaced millions more. U.S. efforts to fight communism and the drug trade in Colombia fueled the decades-long conflict between the government and guerrillas there. Nearly 7 million are still displaced. In 1991, a coalition of Somali military groups overthrew a Marxist dictator before they dissolved and spent decades fighting each other. Simmering conflict there, and also in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, Sudan, and South Sudan have left more than 11 million people displaced. At the end of 2010, protests erupted in Tunisia and began spreading across the Middle East and North Africa, the Arab Spring. That, of course, led to the civil war in Syria that has forced some 12 million from their homes, more than half the country's population. 5 million have taken refuge abroad, and the numbers are growing. Those are the biggest numbers, but not an exhaustive list. Among others, Saudi Arabia's bombing in Yemen, crisis in eastern Ukraine, conflict and natural disasters in Pakistan, and Boko Haram in Nigeria. All have displaced more than 1 million people each. War, then, is the main cause of the world's refugee crisis. Ironically, the total number of conflicts has fallen from 70 in 2001 to 42 in 2014. Yet the conflicts that persist tend to be bigger and harder to stop. They've led us to a time in our history where there are more displaced people than at any time outside World War II.
There are more people who have been forced to flee because of war, conflict and persecution than at any time since World War II. This is the highest global level that UNHCR has ever recorded.
Their numbers grow, but there aren't many places for them to go. Economic strife, terror threats, and xenophobia are pushing more countries to close their borders. It's a humanitarian crisis on a scale we haven't seen for generations, and most of the solutions haven't done enough.
We're humanitarians. We can't, we're providing, if you like, a band-aid to a gaping wound. But ultimately, the solution is a political one.